Okay. Well, about to do my spoiler-filled review. This should do it. I suggest you pour yourself a drink as well. Hello, David Zaritsky for the Bond Experience. Welcome back. Well, a lot of people have been requesting this. Here it is. This is my spoiler-filled review of No Time to Die. Now, let's step back for a moment. You thought this was just a prop. No, I'm going to pour myself this because this is going to be a relatively long discussion. Now, I'm going to only say this once. Judging by the thumbnail, judging by the fact that I said this was going to be, oh my, that is a good look. This is going to be spoiler filled. So if you haven't seen the movie, if you live in Australia, please watch my spoiler-free review, which is up on YouTube. This is going to have all the spoilers in it because we have got to break it down. All right. First of all, a couple little background things about my review. It's my review. What do I mean by that? Everybody's opinion is a valid one. Everybody's going to have one. They're all going to differ. So I fully expect, and I'm not going to delete comments unless they're a little bit harsh, and then yeah, you get neutralized. But I respect your comments. I want to hear what you all think. This is just my thoughts after seeing the movie 4 times. Now, the first time I saw it at the premiere, red carpet. By the way, I'm wearing his retirement Tommy Bahamas. I've got the Amiga outfit. I've got the whole thing on here. This is the Jamaica look. And of course, he's got the Johnny Walker Black, just like Jamaica. This will help me get through the ride. The second time I saw it at an Oliver Brown screening. Sound was good. It looked good visually. It was fantastic. And the third time that I saw it was with Omega at the Omega event in Los Angeles. And again, the sound was great. It was a great theater. It was a great visual. And then the fourth time, the last time, so far, I saw it at IMAX in Los Angeles at the Chinese Man's Theater, the very famous one. And it was fantastic. So let me start off by saying this. I truly believe, to me, that this movie is an excellent movie. I've said that in interviews with Daniel Craig, Cary Fukunaga. I've said it in reviews of Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, and I meant it. This wasn't just serving up, just because I'm reviewing them and in front of them. I really thought this was a sensational, excellent film. However, I do have issues with it. I do have problems, and we're going to be talking about all those problems because there's 2 main ones that I have in this film that we're going to dig into. So before we do that, though, we've got to kind of start at the beginning. All right. And when I say beginning, I mean beginning. Let's talk about that first Norway scene. I thought it was fantastic. It opens up, we've got the gun barrel, which gun barrel is fine. I'm not a discerner of gun barrel, so I'm not going to start splitting apart hairs with the new gun barrel, but it jumps right into the scene with Safin walking across the snow to the home, Madeline's childhood home and her mother's home, Mr. White's home in Norway. And I thought this was a great scene. The music was really good. What was it? Dalea? But it's this great French music. And the encounter that Madeline has with Safin when he breaks in after he kills her mother is phenomenal. I mean, think about it. What I love about this whole part is that it shows Madeline as a kick-ass person. And again, I think a lot of people were saying, this is the movie that's going to go woke. But honestly, a child emptying a clip, was it a Glock, into Safin's chest was just badass. I mean, people were, they were whooping and yelling and just really excited about everything that they were seeing. So I thought it was absolutely fantastic. The one thing that I thought was really interesting was how they kind of transitioned some of this. I mean, they have the whole part with Norway, they have her dragging out and Safin rescuing her. This was the only part of the film. Here we go. I told you there was going to be problems. that I like Safin in. And we're going to break it down apart, but I thought Safin was this woeful, vengeful character that they introduced really well with Madeline. And then they jumped right to, obviously, Matera. So, Matera, let's talk about this grouping of scenes. From beginning to end, when they showed Bond and Madeline driving along the walkway, and there's the On Her Majesty's Secret Service, uh, Matera was gold. James Bond gold. I mean, look at this visual right here. He was outfitted perfectly. I thought the costume design was great. I thought compared to Spectre, the whole sepia thing was gone, and the moments, the absolutely throttled action moments during Matera were unbelievable. I mean, you were gripping your seat. There were motorcycles, there were cars, there were DB5s, there were gadgets, there was everything. Bad guys losing their eyeball. I thought Matera was probably one of the best action exponential scenes that we've seen in a Bond film, bar none. All right. So this is what I mean. There's this momentum of excellence that's really happening here that I had not seen in a Bond film for a very long time. So, I mean, quite frankly, I had nothing but hope when it came to looking at each parts of this. Now, this is where, even upon first viewing to now, I started to get a little, it may not be perfect. All right, so let's talk about the opening titles and the song. The song for me has never been a phenomenal song. I just have to give my opinion. It's not a Thunderball, it's not a Goldfinger. It's fine. It actually makes a better melody in my thought than a song. So when I heard it at the premiere, drink. When I heard it at the premiere, I thought to myself, all right, here goes the song, but I wasn't actually very conscious of it. I was studying more about the visuals of the opening titles. Now, I've seen it 4 times. I just told you that. The opening titles for me are becoming a little bit more clear about what they mean and what they're going on, but they seem a little random, or maybe better put, they seem like they don't live in the same family. I mean, if you look at Casino Royale, it looks like playing cards, right? If you look at Goldfinger, it's along body types and there's gold aspects. This almost takes 3 different movies and combines the opening titles together. You have 3 very different fonts and themes and images and coloring. And I know about this. I'm in the world of advertising. So it felt like it was almost like they got a creative brief and they split it into 3 and they went down 3 different sections. And again, my opinion on this, I know, but it's something that I was kind of left with. Well, do I really like that? Or is that something that, I'm just kind of living with? But I do like the fact that it jumps right into something which is very impactful. And that is the break-in, kind of the lab break-in. I thought this was beautifully shot and directed. And I do want to stop and talk about Cary Fukunaga's direction on this, because to me, the direction on this film, both from a character, emotional, but even scenes like this that have a lot of action, explosiveness, creative type of visuals, was very good. I think Cary did an amazing job. I told him as much, and I meant it. I think he did an amazing job directing this film. It's also beautifully shot. I mean, look at even the visual here. This is a brutal scene. I mean, we're talking brutal. This kind of sets up the whole idea of like, this is not your dad's Bond film, or maybe it's License to Kill, because I mean, they're shooting people through glass. They're shooting people point blank. I mean, they're doing a nice job from a directional standpoint, sort of covering it up a little bit. But the implication is there. This is a very brutal scene, and you can see how harsh this is. And you start to get the first idea of the scientist, right? And he's a bit goofy and funny. And at first viewing, when I first saw this movie, I thought, oh, it's a little irritating. I want my badass Bond, Quantum of Solace type of thematic moments. And this guy's kind of yucking it up. It's almost like a Roger Moore character. I've grown to really like this character. He's goofy. You just want to dislike him. He's vile. And I like that type of over the top character. And they get a lot more into that, of course, into the future. But this scene really sets up the plot, which I think has some weakness to it. But again, we will definitely get up to that. And then we've got a moment where, we just kind of, we're jumping to the future here, and we get Jamaica. Now, if I take Norway, if I take Matera, if I take this lab scene, if I take Jamaica, I love all of these. Like, if the movie stopped right here, I would say this is probably in my top 2 Daniel Craig films. I thought Jamaica was masterful. It was beautifully shot. It made you want to be there. It was like the old James Bond films where it's like a triptych. It looks like a postcard. It feels like a postcard. You see Bond, I'm wearing the outfit right now, in retirement. He looks like he's having fun. His home looks amazing. Yes, you all want to live there. So do I. But, one of the things I like about Jamaica is the interplay with Felix, the introduction of Ash, the introduction of Nomi. And I didn't find it woke at all, by the way. The Nomi moments, I know people were like, it's going to be woke. He always got the upper hand. He was always James Bond. And I think the tete-a-tete is exactly what you get in every other Bond film with women. And I liked her setup. I liked the writing. I liked the direction. Jamaica, I thought, was fantastic. And quite frankly, Jamaica went fast for me because I was wanting more of that. But, things have got to move on, and it does. And they go to Cuba. And again, this film for me, even in first viewing of the premiere, but more and more over time, each of these parts got better and better and better, meaning my fourth viewing of this film got better than my first and second. Now, the first one at the premiere, I could hardly even hear the dialogue. Frankly, it's Royal Albert Hall is a beautiful place. The red carpet's fun, but you go for the red carpet. You don't go for the viewing and hearing pleasure. By the time I saw it on IMAX, which is the way the director and the actors want this to be consumed and seen, it was beautiful. So you had scenes like this that were just larger than life. And Cuba was amazing, absolutely amazing for so many reasons. But I loved the imagery. I loved the spectacle. I love Bond going from this to that in the tuxedo. And of course, what would this conversation be without talking about Paloma? And Paloma is not just Ana de Armas. I mean, I thought the character herself, again, you have this wonderful writing where the characters are fun. They kick ass, they're badass, but they're fun. And it's a certain amount of like frivolous nature here with the scenes where Bond drinks the martini as he throws the tray. Nomi comes in like Batman in the ceiling. This scene moves so quickly. And this is what I come for a Bond film. That didn't even come out right, David, but I'm not changing it. This is why I go to see a Bond film. How about that? I go to see a Bond film to go, hooray. I go to see Bond win. I go to see his allies like Paloma help him kick butt. And she did. I go for all of those reasons. I go for fun, right? I want to remove my brain. I want to escape. This is one of those scenes. I mean, Cuba, from beginning to end, I thought it was unapproachable. And I know that there's a lot of people saying, well, is it really unapproachable? Yeah, I think it is, because it really does set up Nomi as this character, this partner in arms, who I think is very well written and acted. I think the acting in this film, even when they're being tongue-in-cheek, is extremely positive. And I think it's one of those moments where I can honestly say it really hits home for me. And again, at this point, I'm loving this movie. So then Bond and the scientists escape. They go into the biplane. Cool, buying it all. Touches down at the ship and meets up with Felix and Ash. And the interplay between Felix and Ash and Bond is good. And the scientists, I like, and I really got the story this time. I was able to hear things and connect with it, etc. Was it necessary for Felix to get shot? No. This is one of these moments where I think that, Felix gets shot. You have to create a dark moment. And it's a very moment reminiscent of Vesper drowning. I mean, here you've got Bond. Look at that face. My gosh. You've got Bond drowning along with Felix, and Felix kind of floats backwards just like Vesper. It's a very poetic scene. It's a sad scene. Felix dies, implores Bond to do the right thing. And I do like these moments that are being served up. And again, they're really taking these characters and bringing them to bear. And it's at this point that all of the movements of the previous scenes marry up to Bond becoming Bond again. And how does he do it? Of course, he does it by getting in a suit and going to London and going to that garage. And by the way, the garage scene, it's short. I mean, the RTT jacket hardly makes a supporting role. What is it, 8 minutes long? He opens the garage and there he's Bond walking down the street in front of the V8 Vantage. So I do love this imagery. I do love Bond becoming the Bond that we know and kind of the funny, humored moments. But one of the things that I have to get used to is the disarming moments. I'll call them disarming moments between M and Bond. How much did you really study these? So you had the ones where he went in his office and one where he was outside in London talking. They're two very different scenes. The first time that Bond and Nomi are kind of going at it, I like the humor there. You know, oh, does that bother you? Does that bother you? I think they're acting very well. The first few times that M and Bond are talking in M's office for the very first time, and Bond is really going at M. I mean, you've never seen Bond go at M like this before. To me, it was almost strange. And I have to admit, it didn't seem like the Bond I knew. It didn't even seem like the Daniel Craig Bond that I knew going after and attacking M like this. But I've seen it 4 times, and I've said this 4 times already that I've seen it 4 times, and I'm almost getting the sense that Bond has evolved. He's transformed. He's surly, right? He's coming out of retirement. He's a little angrier, maybe a little bit more disrespectful. So this was fine. I was actually fine with them going head to head. What found a little strange to me was the music playing at this point, and now they're coming together. They're seeing more eye to eye after really going at it a little bit more. The On Her Majesty's Secret Service music, and this is where we start to talk about music. I thought it was a bit strange here. And in the beginning, was I okay with the On Her Majesty's Secret Service with Bond and Madeline? I was okay, but I wasn't crazy. I don't know if it was due. I don't know if it was earned, but here they're just setting up this discussion as larger than life about freedom. And it is big discussion, but I don't think they needed to go back to On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And I'll go one better. I actually feel like when the Zimmer music is playing, ready for this one? I actually think I like the Zimmer music very much. I like it better than when they do the On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Not better than Barry's music. Everybody relax. But I liked the Zimmer music. I thought the Zimmer music fit the scenes. But whenever they put Barry's music in there, it seemed a bit strange. David Arnold's perfect because that homage to Vesper and Matera was perfectly aligned. But I still, it made me scratch my head. And what I hope and pray that it wasn't a fan moment. It wasn't fan service. Because even in the end, you know, I know it harkens back to kind of a sad moment, but the On Her Majesty's Secret Service moment just felt a little out of place. All right. Lest you think I'm going to be doing a purely glowing review 15 minutes into this, we're going to go to one of my first major disconnects. And that is when you see Safin for the first time connect with Madeline. First of all, the fact that she doesn't recognize him is a bit strange, but let's put that aside, okay? Maybe, you know, she was rescued and he just saved her and then left her, so maybe there wasn't a long time together. I'll buy that. I'm not liking Safin that much as a bad guy. And I know a lot of people have, but first of all, I found it very hard to understand him. And I thought it was just my first or second showing. But even in IMAX, I don't know if I was catching all of his plot and storyline. I understand he's a man for revenge. I get it now that his family was poisoned and he was poisoned, which is why he's all crinkly faced and scarred. He's been poisoned. I get all that. But what's his why? Like, all right, he comes from a family of people that poisoned for Spectre, and they in turn were poison, which is ironic and interesting. But what's with the whole poisoning in the world? I mean, the vengefulness of doing these nanobots and creating this type of technology. Why? And why would he wait so long to do this type of revenge on Spectre? I mean, it's been a long time, hasn't it, since all of this has transpired. So all of the Safin parts, and this is pretty sweeping, and I'm going to sweep all of the Safin parts in the entire movie, except for the beginning one in Norway with the little girl. I'm not digging them. I don't dig this one when they're together. When Bond and Safin towards the end are connecting and they're speaking to each other, I just don't feel like he's the strongest bad guy I've ever met in the Bond franchise. I don't think his why is very strong. I don't think the dialogue between him and Bond are anything like a Goldfinger moment or Skyfall moments or Le Chiffre in Casino Royale. They're just not. They're written fine and they're larger than life, but they don't smack of an interesting discussion. They feel Fleming-ish at times, but they don't feel of this James Bond, if that makes sense. So I'm afraid that in this particular case, I'm going to actually say that Safin as a bad guy does not rate very high to me. Now, we have to, of course, talk about one of the other bad guys in the film because they're not all weak points, but let's talk about when Blofeld meets Bond. And this was supposed to be, I mean, there was no spoilers. This was going to be a moment when, it's almost like in Spectre when you meet Blofeld and they have this long opening and Madeline is shaking and, he's coming down the corridor and it's very, very, fava bean type of moment. But for me in this particular scene, I thought Craig did an amazing job acting. And by the way, let me just pull out of this picture for a second. This is Daniel Craig's acting pinnacle. I mean, I will say this for any faults that I'm about to say in the movie. There are no faults with Daniel Craig's acting. He acted the living crap out of it. Where in Spectre, there were some moments that were a little flat, I'll say. In this movie, it was unbelievable. And this scene is no different. I mean, I think he did it really well with, the whole die, Blofeld, die. And some people thought that it was over the top. I thought it was fine. It's straight out of Fleming. It was fine. Christoph Waltz, just, I don't know. I thought he was going to bring a certain level of gravitas and menace, and he was just kind of kooky Christoph Waltz. I think it was important for a continuity standpoint to bring him back. Of course it was. But this scene for me, like, I'm not going to run out to Joe Public and go, listen to me. The film's fantastic, but just go for the Blofeld scene. The Blofeld scene is worth the price of admission. No, I'm not going to be doing that. I don't think the Blofeld scene's the price of admission. I think it's fine. I don't think it's incredibly necessary. And I said to somebody afterwards, I could have seen the writers, instead of having Safin, who I think is a weak bad guy, quite frankly, and has a lack of a why, making him a henchman and having this Blofeld's real movie, because Spectre really wasn't Blofeld's movie, right? I mean, I think we can all sort of agree on that. Maybe a couple of you out there won't. But what if this was Blofeld's movie? What if all of this was done from prison? And all of the different things in this movie, including the factory, including the nanobots, was all Blofeld's design. What if it was Blofeld controlling everything and Blofeld breaks out at one point and goes to this, the Faroe Island, base and stuff like that. And then we've got a real James Bond movie. Make it Blofeld again. This Blofeld Safin thing, just it's not working for me. It's almost like one convoluted plot point too far that wasn't needed. I don't feel like with a Bond film, you should have to see it this many times to start to get the connections. And even those connections are okay, but it made the Blofeld moment almost feel superlative. Like we've got to finish off on the Blofeld story. And then he's dead. And then he's dead. Felix is dead. Blofeld is dead. A lot of dead. So, and listen, I know I'm sounding pessimistic and surly, but these are really connective moments that didn't connect for me because the other moments did. Like, for example, Madeline and Bond. Madeline and Bond weren't the greatest thing for me in Spectre, FYI. In this film, they were fantastic. I bought the story. I mean, when even he says, where are you going? And she goes home, and he heads to Norway. And this was a fantastic part. I like when Bond basically follows her to Norway. They connect, they talk. The first two times, and I had a little bit of a heads up to, Mathilde, the child, Bond's child. So I wasn't overtly surprised. But I will say this. You know me by now. I dig me some Quantum of Solace and Casino Royale. Yeah, I'm that guy. So I like badass Bond. I like assassin Bond. I like Bond not to say too many words and just go into action and just kick butt, leave a lot of bodies lying anywhere. The John Wick of Bondom. That's me. That's what I dig. So Bond with a child, carving an apple, making breakfast, asking how it is. Doo-doo. Doo-doo. By the way, I want a doo-doo for Christmas. So, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. The first two times I saw the movie, I was like, family Bond? I don't know. But the third time and the fourth time, and now as it sits with me, I'm actually okay with it because I'm seeing Daniel Craig's 5 movies as not the 25 Bond film franchise. I'm seeing it as a 5-picture arc where I can see him with the relationships from Vesper on, him finally having a family and valuing that and connecting with that. And I think it was served up with humor. The whole line of, when she goes, I have something to show you. And he says, what is it, another child? Laughs in every showing I had. The hidden room, what's it with your father and secret rooms? Funny. I mean, I think the humor is back in this, which I said to Daniel Craig when I interviewed him, I said, the humor is back. And I love that the humor is back. But I will say that the family aspect took a little bit of time, and his connectivity to a family that he really hasn't known was a little hard for me to swallow, quite frankly. It was just one of these things where I'm like, all right, he's found out he has a child. She says it's not yours. So either he's going to believe in it, even though the eyes are matching, or he's not. And so I needed to believe that connectivity to really understand that. Happily, I was able to put that away for another kick-ass Bond action moment. And that is, of course, Norway, where they're escaping. They find out that Ash is close. You get this Return of the Jedi, wicked Ewok moment. Oh my gosh, I love this scene. I never thought I would really like this trench coat in action. I'm like, what is this? Prairie on the Bond? I mean, what is the whole cowboy thing? This is great. And now it's almost like I see this as like Han Solo's trench coat from Return of the Jedi. Remember that? And first of all, blending in perfectly. He's camouflaged. I get it now. I understand why he wears it. He moves perfectly in it. The action in this part is phenomenal. And that's the other thing, this direction and showing Madeline as a kick-ass, I can't even say heroine. She's part of the heroic characters that are written. And I'm going to go back to what people said. People thought this was going to be the Me Too movement Bond, the Bond where women are just written and the men are ripped apart. And I didn't find that. I just thought each character was written well, and it was almost gender neutral. I mean, I was rooting for Madeline. Madeline was kicking butt, but her clip's empty. She's captured by Safin. I get it. That's what will happen when you have henchmen and your clip is empty. So I totally bought this whole thing. I was a happy camper at this point. So it's important because we are going now to a part where now we're in a traditional Bond environment, right? Bond and Nomi dip down. I like the glider. People are like, it could never happen. It would bust its wings, but it was so Roger Moore. And, again, it's that fun factor. I'm going to a Bond movie to celebrate. Oh my gosh, just came out of a pandemic. And I know this was written and filmed before all that, but I'm ready to celebrate with my friends in the Bond community. So he's back to a Bond layer. I loved all the scenes where they're moving through this layer. They're shooting bad guys. Bond is back. He's kicking butt. He's cracking wise. He's got cool clothing. I'm digging all this. And by the way, I'm going to go back to the music. The Hans Zimmer music was fantastic during this part. I have the album now and I've been playing it, and all of them fit so incredibly well. People were worried about Hans Zimmer. I'm a fan of Hans Zimmer though, so I'm cheating. I like Pirates of the Caribbean. I like all his stuff. So this was Hans Zimmer understanding these Bond moments, and I think it actually elevated the Bond moments throughout these things. I think the stunts and action are unapproachable in No Time to Die. The quarter scene, this like one, Fukunaga take where he's going up the corner and kicking butt, was unbelievable. I thought, to me, I would like, oh, you know what? I know they're going to have one of these scenes in here. I just know it. So, bring it on. I'm ready for it. However, here it comes. I told you this wasn't going to be 100% glowing review. So here we go. The Safin part between Bond and Safin, I don't like this part at all. And again, it's to me getting back to Safin as a bad guy has a lot of weaknesses. So you have Safin and Bond talking back and forth, and this is a famous trope in Bond films where the Bond guy or Bond meets the Bond baddie. And it should be a very Fleming moment where they go back and forth, taking the mickey out of each other. But just this felt a little sanctimonious. Even Daniel Craig's lines during this about, you're not giving people chance, you're putting them into the battleground, sounded almost a little sad. It seemed almost begging. And I get, when he goes, I'm sorry, and he's bending down, he's getting ready to do something. And I get that. But it just, this weakness of Bond, this being a little bit, I don't know, permeable, not being this badass Bond moment really, really hurt. It didn't feel right. And the Safin moment with Bond seemed weak because of that. I couldn't really find a moment where I could get into that. So what did I do? Well, I just accepted it, took another little drink. Hold on. And then we have a moment where Bond now is shooting through the layer. I love this part. So we're back to a love moment. I thought it was excellent. The direction, the moments with Q in this film, but especially here when he's trying to describe how complicated this moment is, the little switches. It is perfect. In fact, I will tell you the Q moments during this film, whether it's Q's apartment or the Q moments with Bond, are served up perfectly. They're hilarious. Q gets some of his best roles and best moments. They're funny, they're good, but we do have a moment, and that is a moment that I still, for the life of me, do not understand. So first of all, you've got Safin escape with Mathilde, and Mathilde bites Safin. Okay. And Safin just says, well, if you don't want my protection, just go running off. Well, that didn't seem very important. It seemed like Safin would really connect and hold on to this girl, and this girl wouldn't just go running off. But she does. And all right, so we have Safin and the henchmen kind of escape and walk out, and then that's the last you think you see of Safin. But then Bond is running across the water, and Safin just pops out of nowhere. No henchman, nothing, just shoots Bond. This coming after, we had a really poignant scene with Mathilde and Madeline and Safin, where he introduces his poison garden. It's a part of his heritage, his nostalgia, his father. And there's this really scary moment with Mathilde almost touching this poison garden, but it's never brought back. And that is the perfect point to do it. So if you have Bond and he's trying to fight against time and stop the missiles from crashing into this and destroying the factory, why wouldn't you have a fight with Safin and Bond where the two of them are wrestling and one of them gets pushed into the poison garden? Maybe Safin? But instead, Safin gets unceremoniously capped, and it just feels hollow. It feels less important. Here is Daniel Craig's last movie. You have a chance for a bad guy ending that is going to be the bad guy ending of them all. You could even hearken it back to Fleming. You can make it about the poison garden. You can make it about the plot. And instead, you just have him coldly shoot him. It just rang as hollow. Bond getting shot like a pincushion, it just that rang a little bit of hollowness for me. So by the time Bond has to go back, the one thing I'm evaluating at this point, and this is where, I'm having a little bit of criticism of the movie and why it's still an excellent movie to me. I really enjoyed it, but it doesn't climb higher up the ranking is because I feel like the famous ticking time clock of the James Bond movie. Look at Goldfinger. Look at all these things of Bond against time. They served it up, and I got it the second time viewing. They served it up that all these ships and enemies are coming, and they want the weapon, right? They want Hercules, whatever it's called. They want it, and they're coming. So there is time that is ticking. But is this the right time to die? Does he have enough time to open the missile thing and then get out of there? And so you have to go back to the fact that he's now scratched. And I've heard people say, well, he's scratched, so what? He can't see Mathilde and he can't see Madeline anymore. And at first I thought that too. And then my wife broke it down for me and said, you don't understand. It's not that he can't see them. He has these, nanobots that if he comes in contact with someone that comes in contact with them, they're dead. They're dead. So he could kill them at any time. But think about his lines at the end of the movie. He's repeating a lot. He's saying, plenty of time, Q, plenty of time. It's okay, Q, it's okay. It's almost this like double timing thing. And what I found very interesting was when Bond is finally climbing the ladder and he's going to die, he was in a bunker. He could have actually gone farther into the bunker, but this was going to be a self-sacrifice moment. And I get it. If he really wanted to make sure that they were safe, and not just that he couldn't be with them, which I'm married to. I get it now. If this wasn't just quote unquote committing suicide because he couldn't see his wife and kid, because that would be crazy. I mean, this is James Bond. He's bigger than life. But a self-sacrifice moment because he could kill them. I get that. And I'm okay with him now dying. Let me take a drink to that because I wasn't at first. But two things. Would I have preferred him not dying? Yeah, I have to say. Him dying at the end of this movie, and now we've got to talk about the ending. Still, even after 4 viewings now, it's hard for me. And I realize why at this point. A couple reasons. First of all, I realize as a hobby, the character that I celebrate in my hobby until a new film is made 3-5 years from now, who knows? He's dead. My character is dead. And it's a nostalgic thing. It's a knife to the heart, to be honest with you, because look, I've spent a lot of time on this channel. I watch these movies. I spent a lot of time supporting the Bond community and doing fitness challenges and doing book reviews and all these things. And always in these 25 movies, when you watch a Roger Moore movie or you watch, some other thing, the character of James Bond eventually dies. And he dies this way. He dies in a self-sacrifice. And that's the thing I want to say. I actually would have been okay in the end, or better, I should say, rather than okay, if Bond died for Queen and Country. If there was this big, massive, I just saved the world. And you could argue he did. All these millions of people were going to get killed. But I feel like there could have been a different way to do this. This wasn't the only way to stop this factory. And it's not like the factory was going to spit out all these things. And, other people were trying to get the weapon, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't going to be other intervention. No, this was self-sacrifice because of his family. And this movie at the end, the last portion of it was about family. Cue Fast and Furious soundtrack. But it was about family. And I don't know if I'm perfectly okay with that. I feel like the ending for Bond could have been as heroic. And some of you are saying, like, David, what's wrong with you? You have a family. Is there anything more heroic than family? No, of course not. But I'm not celebrating, and I don't follow a film where it's a family man. I celebrate a film with an anti-hero, with a fallible and at fault individual who's a bit of a son of a bitch, as Fleming wrote him. He's a misogynistic assassin, and he shouldn't be very likable. And now he's really likable at the end of this movie. It's a sweet moment. He picks up doo-doo. He's got doo-doo. He's got doo-doo on his shirt. He's got the little, the little rabbit, Matilda's rabbit. And so it's a very likable moment, and you feel for him. And I, like many people, not in the first viewing, I was more in shock. Probably in the third or fourth viewing, I felt myself getting emotional. And I realized it wasn't necessarily emotional because of the interplay of the actors, but emotional because I was seeing my nostalgic Bond killed. The character was being killed. And if you watch my interviews with Daniel Craig, Cary Fukunaga, and Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, I asked them a question. Now, I'm not going to be rude. I really like this movie. I think this is an excellent movie, so I wanted to heap on the appropriate praise. But I did ask them a question that relates to what I'm talking about, and that is, folks, did you stretch the Bond formula too much? I actually asked a couple of them, did you go too far? And to me, I felt like this went too far. Would it have been, I don't know, not as unique to have Bond at the end, watching Mathilde and Madeline in a playground, and off in the distance, you see a guy in a polo with a pair of aviators, and they pan up, and he's got an Omega watch, and he's got a polo, just like in Casino Royale, and he's got the aviators, and clearly you could see it's Craig, almost like, the Dark Knight. Could you have had that moment? Of course you could have. And then the James Bond will return at the end. Not 007 will return. James Bond will return would make a lot of sense. Now, a lot of people have said, David, you couldn't do that because Craig's not coming back. Craig not coming back is a behind the scenes thing. I'm talking about the fantasy of the Bond movies all connected together. The interplay is, I wanted a moment at the end where I went like this and just started cheering, and that my Bond had won in the end. And I just didn't leave with that feeling. I didn't. And this is where I think some of you may get confused, and I apologize for this, but you're probably saying, like, well, David, how can you say it's an excellent movie if you weren't cheering and celebrating? Well, because this movie really has made me think. I mean, look at this. I'm going on and on to a computer. I'm talking to a computer right now, but you're listening to me. That it really made me think and connect. Yes. And I love all the moments up to it. But I wrote this movie over the last 5 years in my head. And although people flirted with the idea of Bond dying and there was rumors out there, I never, ever in a million years, when I was building the fantasy of my movie, did I have him dying, because I want Bond to be this iconic character that lives on. I mean, can you imagine? Let's play this out for a second. Can you imagine having your nephew or your son come to you for the first time and go, Daddy, I want to watch a Bond film. That's what every kid sounds like. And you say, oh, I've got the perfect one. It's No Time to Die. You'll never do that. You're probably not going to watch this Christmas Eve. I mean, it's not a happy-go-lucky. It's On Her Majesty's Secret Service has a sad ending, but it's not Bond. I mean, this whole thing with Madeline and the ending and things like that, I mean, it is just, it could be gut-wrenching. I mean, people are really upset. This is one of these things where when you think about Bond, and I love this picture, this is the last moment you're going to think. And by the way, direction-wise, badass-wise, location-wise, characters and acting, stunts, action, humor, direction, music, it is superlative. It's in the top 2 of the Daniel Craig movies, which is what makes it more frustrating that this image you're seeing right now, which was done by an artist, and I think it's absolutely both heroic and beautiful, when they show that camera pan up on him and those missiles are coming, on your second, third, fourth, however many viewings, you're going to start to get a lump in your throat because you know this is the end of Bond. You know, it's for me, it was less the connection of, oh, he's not going to see his kid anymore and anything like that. It was like, Bond's going to die. This is it. And it's still, even as I do this review, it's wrenching to me. It's tough. And so I have to kind of step back and say, this is not how I would have wanted his last movie to end. It's not how I would have wanted No Time to Die end. But guess what? Where am I going with this? I don't have a say, and the movie's already out. So I could sit there and go, no, the whole movie sucks, which a lot of people are doing. They killed our Bond. They destroyed him. Da, 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 da. They killed off the character. They didn't destroy Bond. They didn't destroy the franchise. They didn't destroy your love for Bond or anything like that. They made you think, they made you feel, they made you angry in some cases. Okay? But to me, they also made an amazing film. They made a superlative film. They made an unbelievable film that I will not forget. So I've got to kind of create a reckoning around this review, because I will say this. I feel like at this point, No Time to Die ranks so high for me in the Craig era that I still put Casino Royale first. And I'm actually putting, ready for this, No Time to Die and Skyfall about equal distance. And I know that's shocking for a guy that just said the ending did not sit well for him and still doesn't. I mean, really, I kind of go around thinking like this was the movie where Bond died. But it's an amazing film. It's so well directed. It's so well written. It's so well connected together. The storyline flows so well. I do have my biggest issues with Safin as the bad guy, and I have major issues with the ending. But outside of that, I'm digging this. It really harkens in the first 2 or 3 films. I still love me some Quantum of Solace, and Spectre, it is last. So anyway, that's my review. That's what you're going to get. I do appreciate everybody sitting still, hearing all my spoilers. You know, when Mathilde and Madeline go off into the distance after all of Bond's friends toast him, which I think is a very nice moment when they toast James Bond. And you get Madeline turning to Mathilde and saying, you know, I want to tell you about a man named Bond, James Bond. The On Her Majesty's Secret Service music, again, it's one of these things doesn't quite fit for me. But to me, it's a fitting end because we've got some time now. So maybe we have no time to die, but we have time to wait. Everybody who's in viewing range and hearing range of my voice in this review, hear me out. Any reaction that you have to this film in a negative way shouldn't stop you from enjoying the franchise, enjoying all the consumables that we create. Let's talk about it and let's rejoice in the next movement forward. So this was my review. I hope you enjoyed it. And this has been David Zritsky for the Bond Experience. And we'll see you all real soon. We'll talk to you all later. Goodbye. Thanks for watching this episode. If you want to be up on the latest from the Bond Experience, just click on this subscribe and subscribe to our channel. You're going to get all the latest and greatest information, plus some exclusive content. And by the way, speaking of content, here's something especially for you, just because we know you. Talk to you soon.